So again, I can't say for sure, but I'm pretty confident that there's some type of American standard that prevents. Look, put it like this: Amazon drivers don't get to take their vans home, right? And they're empty. He puts reverse. Watch. Oh no, he didn't do it. He's been doing. Is he gonna do a U-turn? He does. So he always has to put it in reverse. So again, this is a. Rather than just make a left, he does that on purpose. And how this Armenian immigrant who's on welfare, okay, you understand, his parents all, they lease their cars from a thing called Major Key Auto, okay? They spell it Key, as if it's a car key, maybe even a musical inclination, kind of a association. But Major Keys is a typical slogan for the criminal underworld for people that move weight, as they call it. I'm not saying that his family is rich, but the human ego vicariously projects its self-image through associations. This is why associations are such a big thing. Police association, political parties, religions are just associations too. So I'm just saying that's an interesting thing, and it's catered to only Armenians who are welfare recipients. There's another example of the same thing. Like, there's another company. This is my neighbors that live literally right next door. The dad doesn't park here because the dad doesn't like to have. He knows that I record all three cars, so he tends to park all the way down there all the time. Because the other thing too is he switches cars because his job, and then at least once a month he's gone for 2 to 4 days without the vehicle. So again, he's a welfare recipient. I mean, I've got evidence of that. I got their gas bill. I got other documentation from the mail that if it's in my mailbox and I get my mail, I open it. I don't read who's it to. It's in my mailbox. So luckily, my postman is ruthlessly notorious for mixing up mail. The truth of the matter is, this is mail fraud if you want to get prosecution. Unless they're the Russian mob, like I say they are, then you can't prosecute me for mail fraud. But you could take me to court, and then you'd have to worry, in English common law, would I defend myself or would I prosecute? Because like Johnny Cochran and the legal teams that for Trump and all of these high power, there's difference between a public defender's strategy for the most part and a typical lawyer strategy, a base lawyer. Kind of like the Better Call Saul. I just finished that series for the second time. A real Anglican lawyer who understands American law as English common law, understands the foundation of English common law is the preservation of nobility and a hierarchy of a limited oligarchy. So in that context, the law is designed to be used as a tool to maintain corruption, by definition. That's English common law. You can't have England without English common law. You can't have Australia without English common law. You can't have New Zealand without English common law. You can't have the Falkland Islands without English common law. So, interesting thing is the only place the English didn't impose their law through negotiations in their imperial endeavors was in South Africa, and that was after they killed white people. And they call it the Boer War, which the English introduced the concept of concentration camps, while they concentrated the populations of the white Boer Boers, which are now called Afrikaans, Kaans, white people that don't want to be called, they don't want to be considered African. So they have their own word. These are the ones that Trump said is being genocided because they're the oligarchic minority. Okay, so They didn't want English common law, so they felt that they had to break away from the English institutions. So they had the Boer War. The English went down there and slaughtered the vast majority. So you got to understand, they talk white and black beef, but the white South Africans, they don't. England killed their descendants far more in number and mass and with far more brutality than blacks ever got a chance to. And even when they had the chance, endeavored to accomplish. But this is a very powerful thing. White is a psychology. It is. I'm like 70% white. But if I thought like a white person, I would deserve to commit suicide, because it's a mental disease that is worse than cancer with AIDS. So, leukemia with AIDS. So let's do mail fraud, Russian organized crime. English common law. So if you want to try me because I opened their mail to take personal information from them, I expose that they are on welfare. I expose that they lease 3 luxury cars and have 2 sons. That it's a very complicated situation. But in the very first 2 years, the very first year, what they did is they only had 1 son at the residence, and he's the older one that seems to have just turned 18 this year, and he's out. So he's out of the picture. He's not been coming around, and the black card down here has been passed on to the younger son, who, I'm not gonna lie, I don't know what the laws are in California, but he cannot be older than 17. He goes to Burbank High. I don't even think he's 16, to be honest with you. But the Armenian boys, because of the way that they're raised, they're real soft and vapid and chubby. They keep baby fat in one sense, so they tend to look immature because they are immature. So, but anyways, so that's the car that he drives now around Burbank. And I'm sure that the rules for his family is that he has to stay in Burbank because, again, the Burbank cops protect Armenian organized crime, which is by fact, in all international standards of law, an extension of the Russian mob, a mere franchise of the Russian mob. That's it. An enmity. Just like this, you don't say this hand is distinct from me. This is my hand. So that's Armenian organized crime in America, is a hand of the Russian mob. That's the gist of it. So, and Burbank MAGA cops and Glendale MAGA cops and MAGA that's infiltrated Los Angeles, which is pretty much LAPD, which is pretty much the whole thing. Because you look at the last few years, the police officers that have died. How do we say this? In training accidents, or interdepartment type, like what's that movie with the guy? Yo, talking to me. Oh shoot, I can't think of it. He's in Heat. He's in The Irishman. Anyways, he's a famous Italian actor, but he's Scarface. That guy, whoever that guy is, he's in a movie Sicario. It's something like Sicario or Serpico. He's in Serpico, and he's a cop in New York that snitches on. That does his job. That's the most. They call it snitching, but he does his job, and he's targeted by the police, and they make it look cultural. But over here, you gotta understand that culture has metastasized with MAGA, so that the law enforcement in California identifies himself as an occupying paramilitary force in an enemy territory. So they are engaged in they're not engaged in public safety, they're engaged in counterinsurgency. Counterinsurgency is about targeting the public to destabilize any capacity for organization or retaliation. Fuck resistance. Resistance is futile. You have to be able to kill your enemy for there to be a fight. If you can't kill your enemy, if all you can do is argue, then like English common law provides, then you are a slave at best, a serf. So chattel, just mooing away, and to the owners, like, moo all you want. That's the noise you make. So my whole thing too is going back to the ambulance. How the fuck is it in California that a guy whose family is looped up in all of this shit is, I don't know how to explain it, is allowed? I just guess like this is like a phenomenal shit. With all the medical standards and everything, this is not a third world country. He brings a fucking ambulance, a medical transport, where elderly people primarily who have weakened immune systems, to wherever he brings it home. He'll come. I don't know where he goes. The other thing too is the hours are very different, because he'll come home at like 9 o'clock, and there's no fucking way. This is what I mean is, I don't believe that he works for the company. I don't believe that's his work truck, and he's actually the driver. But he does drive it from here. He does park it here. He does drive it to a location, and he does bring it back around 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock at night. Okay, so what time is it right now? 6:44, so about 7 o'clock. So we'll say that whatever he's going, he's going to get there by 7. It's Glendale, obviously. So he'll be about 12 hours, he'll be back. Okay. And while I was a janitor in an ER, so I worked in a hospital right here in Glendale, right here in Burbank at St. Joseph's, and I know that primarily the medical staff work 12-hour shifts. That is not the case for non-emergency medical transport. They're just a regular job structure, where at best, like Amazon drivers, they are scheduled for the most part 10-hour days, 3 10-hour days. If you're a full-time employee, they give you 4 10-hour days. So he's not working all of these days. And if you do work that, you only work 3 days. So he's not doing that, but he is being paid, incentivized, we'll call it that, to bring that vehicle here rather than wherever the business is, which theoretically should provide secure parking for, a medical vehicle. Only to drive it back and forth for, not even for stores. This is what I'm kind of trying to, I'm not saying it makes sense. You can't always know what is going through the mind of organized crime, because they have so many different levels of sensitivity. Egoism, just social status, legitimacy, morality, moralistic. Even though they're criminals, the catch is, the higher up they go in the criminal environment, so to speak, the more obsessed internally. They don't talk, they try, because you gotta understand, the guys at the top become ruthless because what are they obsessed with in a psychoanalysis way? If you're ruthless and you're absolutely immoral, then at the forefront of your frontal cortex is the fear of immorality. And the only way people think in context, Buddhism doesn't think in context of morality or immorality for concept, and Hinduism doesn't either. The only reason you have that idea in the forefront of your head is because of the anxiety for what I call the quest for approval. That is your primary motivation. And you're worried, you're always worried you're not doing the right thing. And the higher up the criminal goes, the more extreme measures we associate with them being willing to take. That's how they rise up in the ranks. But that's a disassociation technique that is all about saying, I'm doing this as a man, not because I'm an inner child who's still looking for a daddy figure so that I can get approval. So you can't always know what they want, but in one thing, they're trying to make this son here look legitimate in the community, because I've recorded him. I've lived here for 5 years, and I've changed his life routine. Okay, he started bringing. I think this is because of me, because first he parked right across the street, right across the alley from my garage, and he would come up with different cars, luxury cars with plates that I associated with the Russian mob. They have special patterns like 777, 2 letters, or 77, 2 letters, and then 777 or 88. This is a common thing. It'll be 2 digits, 2 letters, 3 digits, but the digits will all be the same digit. So they even have I even, because I see so many of these and I track them because I live in this area, and anytime I get them, I document them. I've even seen 77SM 777 and 77MS 777, including one at the top of the hill by the park that I would exercise sometimes, where it's 77HL 777, and then 77 in the same house, a luxury house at the very top of the hill on whatever that crest is, Sunset Canyon or something like that. And then the other one is the same digit with just the letter switched around. So I would film those and associate them with Major Key Auto. That's when I first researched Major Key Auto. And Major Key Auto was the one that got me. These companies, the welfare recipients next door, they get from Prestige. And now I've been documenting the Prestige. In fact, I got the car and the owner of Prestige, because recently in the white car, the lady was in a fender bender of some sort. Burbank police showed up. They were knocking on her door. I was like in my room. I heard, "Hello, Burbank police." But I closed my door, and I have I'm listening, watch TV as loud. So I heard that, and I was like, "What the fuck, Burbank police?" But I used to have this camera I had in my door. So I was like, okay, well, I looked I was like, oh shit, it's the Burbank police. But I'm ready for arrest anytime because of the shit that I say. But they were not knocking on my door. So that was like hilarious. I thought that was, so I was, wait a minute, why would they be knocking on their door? So I came out here and I opened my window because the cop was parked right in the front. And then he came back down. He got on the cell phone. And I could tell from the conversation, while he was doing that, a car pulled up over here where that black car is. And because I was, the way it was nighttime, so it was like 10 o'clock at night. So I was thinking like, the lights were bright, but I was still focused on the cop. But I was like, there's an instinct in me that just knew that car parked there for a reason. Nobody got out of the car. So I'm still paying attention to the cops. The cop is like, well, look, we just need to get a statement. Yeah, we understand. He was trying to console the person that I could tell he was talking to the mom and saying, hey, we don't think you're at fault. We know what happened. We just need you as a witness. But she was paranoid. So the cop was down there. I went out at the back and looked to see if the son was hiding in the garage. The light was on in their garage. So I came back here. I even went on the side and I thought about telling the cop, hey, her son is hanging out in the garage. Maybe he knows where she's at. But I was, let me just go back up here and look some more. So then the cop is like, well, okay, well, we can get back with you another time. So then he gets in his car, he drives. As soon as he makes a right there at that corner, the door opens and the kid is with a friend, and he runs down, jumps in the black car, gets ready to run off. The door is still open. He gets in the car. He turns it on. That car that I saw over there turns their lights on. He steps out of the open door with his phone, looking, shaking his head, talking Armenian. I'm assuming, oh shit, that's her telling him, don't go anywhere. Just wait to make sure that they're gone. Because he's young, so she's being patient. Maybe they're just going around the block. So he's like, so he just stands right here in this car with his door open and puts his phone on top of the car. And then she, that car right there, drives over here, does a U-turn, and parks right where she parked right here. He gets out, they look, it's like a little scratch. The dad comes within 10 minutes, so I'm assuming that he might have even already been parked right there because he's really fucking fat and out of shape. And I'm talking about disease-ridden. I guarantee you, gastrointestinal problems, prostate problems, erectile dysfunction, high cholesterol, and coronary problems. Besides some type of developing COPD. And he's got his sons smoking. That's what I love about it the best. As before the 18-year-old left, I caught him a few times. He would come down here and sit in the car so that he could smoke cigarettes. But the catch is, the new thing that Armenians have taught their kids that they don't understand as a lie, that I love it because it means more dead Armenians faster and means that they suffer and they're diseased and they're doing it to themselves, is that now Armenian men, they have taken to smoking the same cigarettes as Armenian women. When I was growing up, it was a very distinct thing in Armenian culture. Men smoked cigarettes and women smoked Slims. That was a very distinct thing. But the reality kept hitting that, hey, it's not a difference. It's just a marketing ploy from the cigarette companies who have one goal, and that's not to provide you a service. It's to maintain a customer, if that makes any sense. So, since that time, now I've noticed, living in this community, all Armenian men smoke Slim cigarettes. What does that do to the mind of the child growing up in that household? Because the child growing up, the Armenians that I knew, they looked at the kid would take maybe the mom. I mean, this don't be wrong, this is stupid, but they would think it was easier. It's like when you grew up, you started smoking the big cigarettes. But when you were first experimenting, you stole your mom's cigarettes, the little skinny ones, and then you shared them. That was the kind of way it worked. But now, since the men smoke the Slim cigarettes and the women smoke the Slim cigarettes, and the rest of the people, the world, smoke regular cigarettes, what is the perception in the mind of a child growing up in that environment with a parents not going to tell them that they smoke because they're weak and that they're addicted and that they don't have the self-will to want to live healthy? That's on the bottom of their list. They have other priorities. The kid is going to extrapolate data and then process that into an end result. And the end result is that now these Armenian boys, this generation, they smoke Slims, but they think, I'm a man. I'm not just gonna smoke one. I could smoke 2 or 3 of these. I can even smoke 4 of these chained back to back. It's only like smoking one real cigarette like everybody else. And this is what I noticed, that the 18-year-old would go, and the teenager, so he goes into the garage. I've been going into the garage. I wake up really freaking early, between 1 and 3 o'clock in the morning. So I've been, my morning routine has been, the last week and a half has been going into the garage. And what I've discovered, I mean, I knew this before. I knew that they hung out in the garage, but now the youngest one has taken to stealing cigarettes and then going into the garage and then smoking them inside of the garage. I don't know how many he steals, but I just like that because I know. A lifelong disease, baby. So, let me see. I got to close this up because I want to get this on Facebook. So, the medical thing. So that guy driving, parking right there. So I would say, I was like, you want to display for me? I'm going to post. Because you think that you're showing me up, but I know you're a weak fucking bitch that is vicariously living through the organization that you associate with. You're not strong. You're not powerful. You're weak. You cannot approach me in any level of a man. Verbally, physically, intellectually, no level. So his whole identity was wrapped up in the idea that, look at what I have access to. And I was like, yeah, show me what you have access to, because that proves to me that you are associated with a bigger network. So that changed the game. Actually, I'm getting here. Oh yeah, this is the mom getting here. Interesting. So, so I would record them and post them. And then I recorded his friends that would come because they would try to hang out at the car. And like, another car would pull up in the front. And so they'd have 2 or 3 luxury cars and they'd just trying to sit right there. And I would work out right across from them because the catch is I would want to show them, you guys understand, you have cars that are strong. I have a body that can brutally fucking, I'm not right now, I'm out of shape. But at that time, I could have a body that can brutally mutilate and murder all of you at the same time, and you won't have any power to do anything because you're sick, you're weak, you're soft, and you have no breathing capacity. Not only because of your life habits, because of the way that your parents raise you and the anxiety. You don't understand. Anxiety has a way of captivating the respiratory system so that like if you go to a primitive place, we consider primitive, their breathing, that's why they also have big nostrils, is their breathing is maximized for oxygenation. That's not an effort. But when you get anxiety, your breathing, what does it do? It shortens. Shortened breath, lower oxygen. Lower oxygen, higher levels of stress. More stress, more tension. More tension, less space to move. Less space to move, shortness of breath. So you get this idea that breathing, the way I breathe must be normal because I'm alive. But that's not necessarily true. So cardio. So I would do that. So what they did is they have, for the last over 2.5 years, maybe 3 years, they parked an old Russian, like a Datsun from the 70s, a car. It's the little square cars. When Datsun first came they had the truck and the little square cars. They have like a Russian brand car from the 70s that is it's supposed to be like that kind of square thing, parked in that parking space now for 2.5 years. And the son has been driving Mercedes and all kinds of shit and parking it out on the street. So once I started catching wind of the vehicles that he was driving, I started recording them and posting that shit because I was like, oh, if you're not going to park in the parking space, I'm going to make sure that I'm showing that you're still driving luxury cars and on welfare. So then in what I feel in response to that is that now the network that provided him the vehicles in the first place, because again, he's not an American. He's never paid taxes. He's never worked in this country. He might have gone to school for a little bit, which helped his parents with the welfare programs. And these are not apartments. These are condos because the city of Burbank, under the auspices of Armenian influence, convert a lot of their apartments into condos because it inhibits public housing. If it's a condo, they don't have to, they're not obligated to provide federal public housing. And they think of that as a low-income poor people. So what they do is they convert them into condos. Armenian organized crime buys up the condos and then rents them inside of themselves, just like this place right here for the most part is also in that same system. I snuck into this place. I'm not going to, it's a long story. But I successfully snuck into this place and I've been here 5 years. My original roommate that got me into this place because I had no credit left after 1 year. And I've maintained since then. So, so my whole thing is now the network wants to legitimize him by having him drive every fucking day. That's what I mean. It doesn't make any sense on a work. If you're a human American, working class American who's doing a job you get paid hourly for, I mean, and you obviously don't own the fucking company. Why are you bringing a fucking medical transport 7 days, 7 nights a week to your residence to park it on the street? Advertising, ego projection, legitimization. And I document it because it matters. Because when MAGA is purged from the California law enforcement, the Russian mob is going to be the primary target of California law enforcement. I'm not saying that it's going to be Democrats, because that's not the solution. But there is going to be a manifestation of a California legal system in which, for the most part, I'll just can summarize it like this: Anglican culture takes a back seat to the preservation and promotion and proliferation of a completely 100% civilian society. Not a government, a civilian society. And that is something that the English European world does not want humanity to think about. But I see that coming. And when we get to that level, these parasitic infiltrators that have only come here to harm and hurt, just like that mom too, they are going to be wiped out one way or another. Dislocation or evaporation, liquidation. And I am building the case so that when it kicks off, we have a list of plenty of things to do and 6 degrees of separation. Everybody that I've documented, including this guy, all of his immediate family are going to be immediate targets too, because you cannot have one without the other in their network. Entire families. This lady, her 2 kids, same fucking thing, and her husband, and whoever their fucking, both their parents are, siblings of the uncles, nephews and nieces. This is how it's going to be when this fucking shit kicks off. And the Russian mob and the Armenian in this community, they know who I am. MAGA knows who I am. And they know what I say. And even though they're a protected group and you see me harassing, fucking beating the shit out of fucking homeless fucking Armenians, harassing welfare Armenians, okay? Ain't no hate crime coming from me. And anything else, I'll just deal with as I have to deal with.